Thank you, Leah. The next person is Dyresha Harris. But I'm going to do one. I'm Marion Campbell from Friends Meeting of Washington. And I realized in the run-up to the retreat that I had never explained how I developed my preoccupation with obstetrics and gynecology. My first understanding of human reproduction was theological. The summer I was 4, my mom put up a crib in the parents' bedroom and urged my sister and I to start praying for a new baby. 3 months later, she went to the hospital for the delivery. It sounded to me a lot like picking up something at the Sears catalog outlet. The delivery was a girl. I was staying with an aunt who said one of those really dumb things people say to 4-year-olds. She said that she had only one boy and we already had 2 girls, so could she have our 3rd girl? I told her to get a crib and start praying. Women in my family and neighborhood were so unremittingly pregnant that I totally missed the enlarged abdomen thing until I was 7. At daily mass, we sat behind Mary Ann Dull, and I watched her through one summer get bigger and bigger and bigger, until one day she showed up for mass deflated and holding a red-haired baby. I deduced that she had grown that baby in her stomach, which left 2 burning questions. First, how did it start? And second, how did it get out? When I was 8, my mother got pregnant with sibling number 4. One morning while she was getting dressed, I was inspecting her abdomen and I noticed a scar. And I said, "Oh, did the doctor make the incision the same place for each baby?" She said, "No, that was her appendix scar. You don't need an operation to have a baby. Babies come out a special opening." She refused to elaborate, but looking at her flattened, stretched belly button, I drew the obvious conclusion. A woman's navel must open like the drawstring on a laundry bag. To get back to the other question, when I asked how she got pregnant, she said, "When it's time, God sends you a baby." I had tentative answers for both my questions, yet I continued to probe. So what if a nun got pregnant? What if I got pregnant? Through gritted teeth, she said, "God only sends you a baby when you're ready." My observations suggested this was not true. A high school junior got pregnant, and my mother got pregnant with number 5 when number 4 was 2 months old. She fell asleep at the dinner table regularly and cried a lot. My urge to help women was emerging. When she was in a good mood, I casually mentioned that I had heard there was something people did that caused babies. I didn't know what it was, but maybe she could ask the doctor. She slapped my face, so I knew I was onto something. While at school, we slogged through the solar system, the Civil War, and the 7 sacraments. I pursued independent studies on human reproduction. I tried harvesting the wisdom of the group at a slumber party. We were deciding what to play, and I said, "Let's go round the circle and everybody guess what Rayanne did to get pregnant." Hey, I thought Dora Mae Mitchell probably knew, but all she said was, "She slept with a boy." A few weeks later, we had an out-of-town great uncle visiting. At dinner, Mom offered him my 3-year-old brother's bed. She said, guy could sleep with Pat and I was at the far end of the table, out of reach and in public, so I said, "Nope, I've heard you get pregnant sleeping with boys." My mother said, somewhat tersely, "You would have to be older." Well, what happens when you get older? Breasts. No wonder women wore bras. But what exactly would a boy do to a breast while you were sleeping to make you pregnant? At the end of 6th grade, we girls at Sacred Heart were shown a movie, Becoming a Woman. It featured some abstract information on the uterus and the vagina as related to menstruation. When you menstruate, you are old enough to have a baby. I was fascinated, one might say obsessed. Not unlike Paulette Meyer, I started rewriting songs, especially Daisy Daisy. Rewrote it to a song that began, menstruation, as well as a short story entitled, The Blessed Virgin Mary Misses Her Period. My mother was appalled. She did not let me enter the story in a writing contest, and as she tore it up, she said through tears that she had hoped I would be a nice girl. That had not been on my agenda, and I knew that what she really meant was that I would be a person who would not think about bodies at all, ever, which seemed unlikely. As I turned 13, I got my period. It was not as much fun as the movie had led us to believe. First, it went on for days. The animated uterus had only taken 30 seconds to enter. Second, you may experience mild discomfort was a bald-faced lie. And then I noticed how often people said that my brother looked just like my dad. Olive skin, brown eyes, coarse black curls. It made me think there must be some transfer of particulate matter involved in starting a baby. I thought about all the male secretions I knew, but having brothers who were 5 and 3, this just included, urine, poop, spit, snot, and earwax. None of which sounded like likely candidates for transferring material. By now, I knew better than to ask my mother. And when you're a child, when you have questions, you have to phrase them in such a way so as not to make the adults anxious. So I asked my dad, why do children look like their fathers? My dad explained to me about eye color, autosomal recessive, autosomal dominant, hemophilia and color blindness, which are X-linked recessive, 46 chromosomes, Gregor Mendel and the peas, red and white-eyed fruit flies. I concluded that I got the geek gene from my father. I asked him, what is this stuff called? He said, well, I think I would call it heredity or genetics. On December 13th, 1963, I went to the library and looked up heredity in the card catalog. 613.9, in case anyone wonders. There was only one book I was not hopeful as it had a picture of fruit flies on the cover. I took it home and settled into my private space between the oil tank and the furnace. And to my delight, in chapter 2, John and Mary made a baby. There were diagrams. It was one of the funniest things I had ever read. All the adults must know the story, and none were talking. I went to the senior class play that evening. Lucky for me, it was a comedy, cheaper by the dozen, because I realized that everyone I looked at had been created using the same bizarre method. Person after next is Jody Baby.